Hello everybody, this is just a little bit of an update video really, just what I'm getting up to today. Just finishing off a little bits and pieces, and yeah, I'm doing a little bit on the Land Rover and then a little bit on the Beetle, the 65. So I changed this rocker cover gasket the other day and I drove it home, and then drove it back to work in the morning and then double checked that it had sealed, and there was oil everywhere still. So actually I took off this breather yesterday, and there's like a crimped edge underneath here, so I cleaned it all out with brake cleaner, let it soak for a bit, made sure if there was any gunk and stuff like that, I got everything out. I blew it through with a air hose, made sure there was flow. I put a new hose on it. The old one had cracked along here, so I don't know if it was leaking from there as well. But I also tapped this crimped edge with a hammer, just gently, to in case it had come like it was leaking from there, so it sealed it. Yeah, put it back on yesterday, cleaned everything up. I've driven it maybe half an hour and everything is nice and dry and clean, so that's that problem solved. One of the other things I want to do is change the fuel filters. There's one there and there's actually one underneath here somewhere there, so I need to change those. Also, this leaks water like a sieve, and we've had so much rain here the past couple of weeks, so the floors have been getting wet. It actually leaks, I think, on these door sills and then runs down. So I ripped out what was left of the carpets. They were terrible anyway, and then I've just cleaned up this bulkhead is actually steel. Everything else on the body is actually aluminium, so these tend to rust. So I've just cleaned off the surface rust and put some rust converter on there, and now I'm going to finish it off with a bit of good old Hammerite. So this rust converter you leave until it goes black, so it does its job. So I'm just waiting for that. There's a little bit of rust repair I need to do there. Also yesterday there was a hole in the exhaust. It was really loud, so I just welded on a piece of metal to fix that, and it's so much more quieter now. It was only a hole like this big in the exhaust, but man, it was noisy. So that's all I'm doing on the Land Rover. Yesterday I took my 65 Beetle for the MOT, katsastus as it's called here in Finland. You know, like the annual, or it's actually every 2 years, the inspection. So yeah, it actually failed. So there was a couple of things. I don't know if it failed, but the headlights were slightly out of line, and one headlight, the driving light, wasn't working, so I'm going to have a look at that. And I may have disturbed it because I painted this front wing a few weeks back, so maybe when I took that off I haven't put the connector back on, or it's a bit dirty or something, so I need to check that out. But more importantly, it was actually the right hand rear brake cylinder was leaking, so brake fluid was leaking onto the shoes, so it was stopping the rear brake, or one of the rear brakes, from performing as it should. So there was an imbalance when they tested the rear brakes. So after I've painted the floors, I'm going to take off the rear wheel and drum and inspect, make sure it is the brake fluid and not oil. I'd be surprised if it was oil, because if you watched my gearbox video that was, I don't know, 3 or 4 videos ago, when I put the rear brakes back on, there's a drainage hole, so if there is a problem with the pressure in the gearbox, the oil will actually come out the back of the backing plate, and it shouldn't affect your brake shoes. So that's going to be my day today. Also, if anybody's been waiting patiently for an engine rebuild update, I ordered the hone-in tool. I don't know how long ago it was, like 6 weeks ago, maybe more, and it still hasn't shown up. I contacted them a couple of times, and they've now given me a date for, I think it was the first week of October. So we're now in the first week of September, so I have another month. I was going to cancel it and order another one, but I've got plenty of stuff to do, so let's just hope that that's okay when it does turn up. So I just went over the rust converter with a hot air gun to speed up the process, and as you can see, it's gone black. So now I can apply the Hammerite, and I hope I have enough. I think I have enough for at least one side, so maybe I'll do this side first and see how we go. There we go, but the old Hammerite. It looks terrible, but I'm going to do the same as what I did with the back cross member. Once it's dried off, I'll go over with some Scotch-Brite and take the shine off, and then it'll look fine. Then it won't stand out. I also put a little phone holder up there, which is quite handy. Just managed to get the floors painted before the heavens opened. It's absolutely pouring outside. Okay, so with the car turned around, first up, what I need to do is undo this big nut. So with the car on the ground, handbrake on, probably chock a wheel with a piece of wood, because this is very tight. So I'll put a big breaker bar on it, get this off, and then we'll jack the car up. Right, so update. I got the drum off. I didn't have to take the wheel off of the drum, just pulled it off in one go. And it was actually oily. So I've given it a clean up with some brake cleaner, and it wasn't too bad. There wasn't that much oil on there, but enough. I mean, if you get any oil on your shoes, then it's gonna not work efficiently. So I've cleaned everything up. When I undid the big nut on here, it actually wasn't that tight. So I think what has happened is when I tightened this up, because I didn't have the special tool, I tightened it up as much as I could with a breaker bar like this. But maybe it had settled down a little bit and wasn't, after I tightened it, and it wasn't tight enough. So I'm going to put it back together, tighten it as much as I can again with the breaker bar, and then see if I can get it even tighter, because I think that's exactly what's happened. And what it does is the inner piece of the drum here presses against this here. So if that's not properly tight, then it will leak, and obviously some oil has got into this. I checked that the drainage hole at the back that connects to this is not blocked. I just put some welding wire through there, and that's not blocked, so that's not the problem. So I think it's just that it wasn't tight enough. Okay, so I think I've got it round to the next hole, tighter than it was before. And the floor was so slippery, I went and got a rubber mat and put a jack stand underneath the tyre, and then an extra bar on my 1 meter breaker bar. So hopefully that'll stop it from leaking. All I have to do now is adjust the brake tension through the adjusters using this little hole. And then I think I'm going to do the same as this to the other side and just shine a light through here as well, just to make sure that that hasn't been leaking as well. So always use a new split pin, never reuse the old ones, because once you bend this, it actually weakens the metal. I just lifted the other side and had a look through the adjuster hole. Probably can't see it on the camera, but everything is nice and dry in there, which is great. I'm still going to take this off, this pin out, and see if I can get it kin tight plus one. Right, the car now back on the ground. I put this rubber mat underneath and just taken the pin out. I'm really interested to see if I can get this another notch tighter, because when I did the last video, when I put the gearbox back in, I tightened this up as much as I could with the breaker bar, thinking that there's no way it will go round. But I took the other side off before I could check to see if it would go one notch more. So yeah, I'm interested to see if this will go even tighter. I hope it does, because it means it's kind of, that's the where the problem was. So let's see. I'm going to put safety goggles on just to be sure. So let's see. Yeah, see, it's going. Quite a lot actually. So I have a feeling that they probably settled down a little bit. This is why it's a good practice to use the proper tool. Okay, I think that's as tight as I'm going to get it. So there we go. It's tightened up, new pins in. Hopefully that's solved the problem. Another lesson learned. I thought by doing it with this, it was like super tight, but obviously not tight enough. Like I said, I would like to borrow this proper tool for torquing it from the guy I work with, just to make sure, see how far off it is now. But yeah, so hopefully problem solved. I just took the headlamp out, which is super easy because it's just held on with one bolt like that. And as you can see, the bulb is discolored. So yeah, you can see actually on the filament there that it's black. So I think I have some spare ones. Yes, look at that, got a stash. These are brand new ones as well by the looks of things. That's awesome. These are all my 6-volt bulbs. I have been prepared. Look, let's get it in and see if it works. Okay, rough way of doing it, but with the headlights, I basically got my kneeling mat and put it a certain distance away from the car, and I marked with a marker pen where the left one was, and then I moved it across and saw where the mark was on the right hand one. So I lowered one and raised the other, and they're both about the same. So this one here, this adjusting screw here, you turn it one way it goes up, turn it the other way it goes down. This headlamp is considerably duller than this one. I don't know if the reflector is not very good or if the bulb is not very good, but maybe I'll get another one for there as well. But that should be done, ready for Monday now. So today is now Monday after work, and I decided not to chance taking the 65 to the inspection, and I asked my friend if I could borrow his proper tool because I want to do this properly and not have, hopefully, a leak still. So he kindly lent me his special tools. Right, so this I will set up in a minute and show you. There's different methods of doing this. This is a special tool that is awesome. There's another method where you can use this bar and you bolt it onto your drum, and then this hits against the ground to stop the wheel from turning, and then you put this on the end of the nut there, and then you smash it with a big hammer and it tightens it up. But obviously that's not accurate, that's just to get it kin tight. So with this method, it has on here torque settings. So 225 foot-pounds on the big nut is actually only 25 foot-pounds using the torque wrench. So it converts it to that by that much. And then it also says there 30 pounds is 270. So I just looked up in the specifications and it said that this rear nut should be 253 foot-pounds. So my torque wrench is in Newton meters, so I did a Google conversion and it was about just under 24 Newton meters. So sorry, 34 Newton meters. So I'm going to put this on 35, and that should be between these two figures, and then we'll see obviously how it lines up with the hole to put the pin through. Okay, this is quite simple how this works. You have two different hole widths for these. I think are probably for the 4-bolt wheels, and for these wide 5 you use these, and it has a little step there so it fits flat against there. What you also need is longer studs, because to allow for the thickness of this plate. So I think these are probably from, I don't know, maybe a later car as well. So that goes there, that goes there. Like that. Next thing, take this pin back out. Right, I've just put this bar on here to stop the drum from spinning when I tighten this up. But this is really where the magic happens. You get this that fits obviously over there, and then you select the correct gear that goes on the end. I think this is probably for 12-volt flywheel, because you can use this tool on both the flywheel and this. So with the correct gear selected on there, you find where it fits on. Then I have my torque wrench set to 35, and it just has an 11mm socket on there. That's all you need. I mean, you remember how I was hanging off of that breaker bar trying to tighten this up. This is just crazy. So let's see if it goes any tighter than what I managed to do it. Well, I was actually already there. Okay, so it is tight enough, which is good. I'm glad I double checked, but let's do the other side as well just to make sure. And like I said before, new split pin. These are cheap as chips, so don't go using the old ones. And don't use your pliers as a hammer. Boom, done. Right, all set up on the other side. Let's see what the deal is here then. Yeah, so that's tight enough as well. I'm a little bit disappointed because I thought, well, I'm not actually disappointed because at least this does demonstrate how hard it was for me to hang off the bar to try and get this tight. And with this, it's like so easy, it's hardly any pressure. So it's well worth purchasing this, and actually I don't think they're that expensive. So that's it. Now for a test drive. So I just got back from about, I don't know, 20-minute drive, something like that, to fully test it. The brakes seem fine, although I didn't notice anything really before. And I also had a little peek through these holes with the torch to see if I could see if they were still dry, and they looks dry. I might do a little, just have a quick test on the brake testing machine that we have here, just to see if they are balanced okay. And then I think maybe tomorrow morning I can take this in for a retest. So Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock at the test centre, just waiting for the guy to take it in to retest it. Fingers crossed, all is well. Result, it was a pass. Super happy. So with a classic car in Finland, you only need to get it tested every 2 years. So I don't have to come back for 2 years, which is super. So I'm just on my way to work. So once again, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy what you see. And until next time, cheers.